Good morning, everyone. Lee Henson, President and Founder of Agile Dad, and it's time for today's episode of the Daily Stand Up. So, without any further ado, let's get started. Today, I wanted to talk to you about something that is an interesting topic. So, a lot of people have been approaching me about working remote and talking about how it's different than being in the office. And the underlying question is, what are some of the things that we miss out on by not being in the office? You know, people feel like working remote, doing things over Zoom, that you gain some benefits and that it's good to be at home. But what are some of the things that you lose? What are some of the key things that you miss out on by not having that day-to-day interaction? So I thought I'd come up with a short list and go through. And, this is a combination of multiple articles that I read. And I like some of these. And I put together a short list for you because I thought it would be helpful for you to kick off your week with a good list of things that people miss out on. So coming in right at the top, understanding, or I should say, a clear understanding of current work, what just happened, what is coming up right next. I mean, the daily stand-up is great to give you an idea for those things, but being present and seeing what people are doing and being in the vibe of what's happening and having that osmotic communication, you miss out on a lot of the things that are truly current events, the things that are happening right here, right now, the things that we should be focused on. So that's one example of things that we definitely miss out on by not being together in the same place. Another one has to do with future events. Now, I'm not talking about what's coming up immediately. I'm talking about is there a presentation at a certain time today that you didn't know about? Or is there a customer appointment that's supposed to happen and maybe you should be on the call? These are things that without being present, unless you're on the invite, you're not even going to know it happened, right? Because you're not there to see the things that are happening around you. So part of this has to do both with the verbal communication as well as the written communication, as well as the osmotic communication that help make things happen and create a culture environment. This one's probably my biggest one. The current mood. Now, you may not sense that the boss just came out of a very bad meeting with a problematic customer, or that your company just received some really awesome positive feedback and everyone's on that high note, right? It's just, if you're not in tune with the mood of what everybody else is feeling, or if you're not there to see it in the present, sometimes it makes it difficult for you to convey your mood or for you to feed off of the mood of others. There's nothing worse than having someone who's really upset and going to them and saying, hey, I got a quick question, not knowing that they're completely upset, right? Or coming in with a Debbie Downer right after we just got off of a really positive feedback call. So I think it's one of those things where you have to understand and you have to kind of immerse yourself to figure these things out. Here's another one. Challenges or difficulties with impediments, obstacles, any kind of blockers. Sometimes these things are just better or easier to handle with a simple talk. I can walk over and talk to Joe and get it resolved. Trying to email back and forth or set up a call or set up a meeting, sometimes it's more difficult, right? I'm not saying that these things are impossible. I'm just showing you some of the shortcomings of not being together at the same time. Another one, sometimes colleagues are there to offer support when there's a difficulty, right? So sometimes right away, someone can offer you the support that you need or get you the help that you need. This is especially true for a Scrum Master. A Scrum Master can definitely do their job better if they have unlimited access to people. And I think that sometimes we don't have that access when we're working remote. So once again, interesting conundrum, because working remote is really healthy, but at the same time, you're missing out on an opportunity to support others when they're facing difficult challenges. Another one has to do with transfer of knowledge or exchange of knowledge. Knowledge transfer, when you can sit down next to somebody and see what they're doing and walk through and talk and ask questions, is a lot different in person than it is remote. So I'm not saying remote's bad. I'm just saying that exchange of knowledge happens at a slower rate, and it costs the company more money in the long run to do so. Another one has to do with further education or training. This is one that I can speak to personally. Being a certified Scrum trainer, I have been asked to do a lot less private training engagements where everyone comes together than I have public training engagements. And I think reason for that is the onesie twosies, Joe and Susie need this training because they highly desire it and have asked for it, is different than let's just get a department-wide training and bring in a world-class trainer to train our entire group, right? So I think that I'm starting to see, as organizations are starting to go back to work, that they're starting to ask people to attend more training sessions together so that they can benefit from taking the knowledge away all as one group, as opposed to just one here, one there. Another one has to do with work process improvements. So anytime there's a center of excellence that's creating these process improvements, sometimes with everyone working completely remote, it's hard for you to be aware of the latest things that have changed. I mean, even if they come in an email, sometimes it's a lot easier to see those process improvements when you're live and in living color right there and in person than it is when you're remote, right? And finally, last but not least, is personal matters. I call it water cooler time, right? How's your family? How's your mom and them? What about leisure time? What did you do on your last vacation? It's good to see what's going on in your life. How's your daughter's dance recitals going? How is your son's football team doing? Just simple things, simple questions, but they're things that are harder to keep up with in a remote world than they would be in an in-person world. Now, I'm not saying that the regular meetings are any less, and I'm not saying that the exchange of information is stifled because of this, but what I am saying is that in remote teams, we need to find appropriate tools, including being on camera as much as possible so we can get that nonverbal communication. It's unfortunate, but I know in some companies, they don't allow the use of a webcam. Or in some countries, maybe if you have people who are international, the bandwidth is insufficient to support the camera for the whole time. But that nonverbal communication fall off is a big loss, right? It's a big loss of channel. So you need to try to find a way to get that. Other times people like to dive into things like Slack. And while Slack is a great tool, or Wiki is a great tool, Jira, Slack, and Wiki doesn't replace communication, right? It helps make some things transparent, but Confluence isn't going to solve all your problems, right? So there's so many great tools out there. I don't want to just, diss or call out any one. But what I want to say is that you can't use a tool to replace the act of communication. You need to find a way to instill the act of communication outside of just the Scrum meetings, whether it's planned team events where you could just, talk about what's going on for a few minutes. If it's a review of some of the things that you're doing, if it's a review of some of the core fundamental things that help your Agile implementation be what it is, or whether it's a facilitation by a coach that's going to help you really accelerate what your learning is. All of those things are positive, and all of those things can help in your endeavor. So I hope this was useful to you. As always, we encourage you, if you have a topic you want us to talk about, visit us at agiledad.com, send us an email, learn more at agiledad.com. We would love to hear from you and kick off as we approach. We're on our journey to 500. So we're trying to get to that 500th podcast. So we'd love to hear from you and hear the topics that are important to you. As always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.